Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I have time traveled back to the 1940s. What do you think? I think it really suits me. I pretty much do my makeup like this most days actually. So if you're new to my channel or you are new to this series, I have a series that I've started on my channel called Makeup Through the Decades. And I take you through different decades, different genres, and try to give you historically accurate makeup tutorials on how they would do their makeup for that time period. Now, I have done some before. I will leave them listed down below if you want to watch them. But today we are in the 1940s and extremely inspired by one of my favorites, Rita Hayworth. Like anything, any genre, any decade, there are tons of different styles. No one wore one single style. So there are victory roles, there's more natural, but this is my best Rita Hayworth movie star 1940s glam makeup tutorial. So I'm going to take you through this tutorial. I'm going to give you tons of tips and tricks on what was historically accurate, what these women would do back in the 1940s to get their makeup to look like this, and also add in some little tips and tricks on how to make it a little bit more modern for everyday wear. If that sounds like something that interests you, then let's just get right into the 1940s. Okay, so I have already primed my face with the smoothing primer and the primerizer. Now onto foundation. This is the Cover FX Natural Finish foundation. Now what they used in the 1940s was called cake makeup, and it came in this little pan form, and they would apply it with a sponge. And this cake makeup was very thick, very creamy, and very full coverage. So I've used this Cover FX one because it is the most full coverage foundation that I personally own. And it's very creamy, and I am applying that with the sponge in order to try to replicate what they used to do. Makeup back then was flawless. The base had to be full coverage and flawless, but this is the first time that they really matched their skin tone as opposed to the 1920s and 30s where they went a shade lighter. So once that is done, you should have a flawless full coverage base. Onto concealer, I can't find any information about concealer in the 1940s. I'm not sure if they used it. I feel like the cake makeup was full coverage enough that they didn't need to. But here in modern times, I wanted to put on some concealer, so I'm putting this underneath my eyes, on my eyelids, and on any blemishes. Because based on the photos I found, no one in the 1940s had any blemishes because they're flawless in every single photo. And I don't think they had Photoshop back then, although I could be wrong. So just apply concealer anywhere you normally would. Now, something that I found out that was very interesting was they would actually contour with darker shades of the cake foundation. And so I didn't even realize, I don't even think they realized that they were contouring, but they would take a darker shade of the foundation and put it around the perimeters of their face and really play up the highlight and the contour using different colors of foundation. I don't really have a dark foundation, so I use the Milk Makeup Cream Bronzing Stick because I just wanted a cream bronzer or a cream that was a darker shade than my skin tone. So I'm applying this here, and that's kind of really, I think, how the film stars got that really chiseled look, is they were using different colored foundations to achieve it. So I just apply this to my temples, my cheeks, and we're going to set that with powder. This is the RCMA No Color Powder. I chose this because they used to take powder and they applied it with a big powder puff. So I don't have one of those, so I am using a sponge. But I saw a video of Rita, after her makeup was done, they covered her entire face in powder, like full white powder all over her entire face. And then they would wipe that off with a brush after it's set. So again, they were already baking before we even made this term popular back in, 2018 or wherever we are. So yes, I'm taking my sponge because I don't have a big powder puff, but they wanted a flawless airbrushed finish, and it was very, very mattified. So they just covered the entire face with tons and tons of translucent powder. And I'm just dusting the rest of this off with my brush. I didn't put as much on as I saw in the video of Rita Hayworth because I do have dry skin, but you get the point. Now onto the brows. Brows were fuller for the first time in this decade. In the 1920s, they were overplucked as well as in the 1930s. And while a lot of celebrities still had that look, people were not overplucking as much. So they were letting their natural brow hairs grow in a bit more, so brows were a bit thicker. Rita Hayworth's are definitely very thin. I just didn't want to glue down my brows, but I'm taking the Anastasia Dip Brow because what the eyebrow shape did look like, if you had the fuller brow, it was very, very arched in the 1940s, other than Rita Hayworth. But most actresses had a very, very high point in the top of their brows, and they didn't really fill in much in the bottom or the underneath part. It was mostly the top, and they made it very dramatic and very arched. So even though they might have still been a little bit thin, they were very defined and very kind of neat and tidy. So as you can see here, I am just taking the time to build up that arch. I already do have a pretty good arch, but I wanted it even more prominent. So using the Dip Brow Pomade will help to achieve that. Then I just take some concealer and really define that because, like I said, the brows were very defined. So the concealer will just help accentuate that. Then I'm taking the Anastasia Clear Brow Gel. They would actually use Vaseline to set their eyebrows. And in fact, a lot of the working women in the factories would not fill in their eyebrows, but would just put Vaseline to set them. I don't have any Vaseline, so this is what we're going with. Onto the eyes, I am doing a primer, but they would not do this, but I'm adding this in just so that the makeup lasts forever. This is the MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre. Just a plain skin tone base just so my eyeshadow stays all day. Now going into the Viseart Neutral Matte Palette and taking this white shade here, and I'm just putting this from my brow bone all the way down to my lid. Eyeshadow was very neutral and very matte. Now was the era of more natural looks. The 20s and the 30s were very dramatic, and now they just wanted to look naturally defined with a few tools. Women during the war had to work with less, so they had to survive with just a couple products, and they really wanted a natural look. So now I'm taking kind of like a peachy orange brown color, and I'm just putting this into my crease. What they would do really is just contour the eye with matte shadow. So really just focusing on the lid and the crease as the main aspects, because especially the celebrities and the movie stars, they wanted their eyes to look bigger. Then I'm going in with just this neutral brown because I read that eyeshadow should match your eye color. So, if you had blue eyeshadow, a lot of blues and grays were used. And so for brown eyes, I'm using brown shades. And that's kind of what they seem to do. And Rita Hayworth especially seemed to just have very hooded eyes, so only really had color in her crease just to kind of make her eyes look bigger. So I'm just putting this all over the lid and then going back in and really defining the outer corner of my eye socket and into the crease of my eye. And I have hooded eyes as well, so I kind of accentuate that crease and really just bring that eyeshadow into the socket of my eye and to make my eyes look bigger. People actually used to make eyeshadow with Vaseline and matches and whatever they could find, really. So that was more the working woman who was doing that. So right now I'm just putting it on the lower lash line. I couldn't find anything about the lower lash line, but I just wanted to put a little bit of shadow and definition under there. So I just take that same brown shade and put that underneath my eyes as well. During the war, women were actually encouraged to wear makeup all the time to hide sadness and attract men, even when they were at work. So it was really seen as a motivational thing. Okay, now on to eyeliner. Eyeliner was not actually worn until like the end of the 1940s and only on the top lash line. It was considered too fake, and they were really just going for the natural, elegant look. But I do notice that Rita Hayworth did have a little bit of definition on her top lashes. This could be photos from the late 40s, but I just wanted to go in with a kohl eyeliner because this is what they would use. And this is a brown shade, so it's more natural. And then I just smudge it out, as you can see here. So I put it along my top lashes and then just smudge it so that it looks really natural. They would actually take matches and use the charcoal from the matches to smudge into the lashes to look like eyeliner. So that is what I'm doing here. And I am doing a tiny little flick, which again did not become popular until the late 1940s, and that was more in the 50s. But I am kind of taking my eyeliner and flicking it up just a little bit, really to just accentuate the shape of my eyes to look a bit more almond shaped like Rita Hayworth's. So just going back in and building that up. This is the Collab Killer Kohl eyeliner in Knockout. Then I just apply some mascara. This is the Maybelline Total Temptations. Then taking some lashes. If you look at any photos of Rita Hayworth, they were full all the way around the entire eye from inner corner to outer corner. So I've taken the Quo 820 lashes. Now onto the face. The Sun-Kissed Glow was actually very popular. There was something called a Sun-Kissed Color Powder, and they use it as bronzer. So basically it was just a darker powder, but they considered it a sun-kissed color. That was their term for it, not bronzer, but they would apply it the same way we would apply bronzer today, just to really get that glow. And again, it was the first time that they weren't going for the very, very fair, pale look. So I'm just applying this one by Stila. This is a Stay All Day bronzer in the shade Light because it is a matte bronzer. I am going to contour. This is the Kat Von D Shade and Light contour palette in the first shade there. Just because, I mean, Rita Hayworth, all the celebrities had intense, intense cheekbones. The everyday woman would not do this, but I just wanted to make it look like somehow all the 1940s movie stars had intense cheekbones. So that's what I'm going for here, just adding a little bit more contour with the Kat Von D contour shade. Onto blush, they would actually use cream blushes, something called Cream Rouge, and the colors came in pink and coral. There weren't many shades to choose from back then, but they were definitely in the pinky coral family. So this is the Tarte Amazonian Clay Blush in the shade Captivating, and it's a coral blush. So I'm just putting this on my cheeks, but again, this would be a cream product, and sometimes women would actually take their lipstick and apply that directly to their cheeks if they had, to work on the rations or work with less product. Now highlighter, they did not use shimmery highlighter, but celebrities would use kind of luminescent, like more matte white highlighting powder on the high points of their face, much like we do today. It didn't have shimmer in it, but the actors and the actresses would put this on their face, to make sure that when the light hit them during films, it would give a brighter highlighted look. Now on to the lips. The red lip was so iconic. And they also used lip pencils more in the late 40s, but the lips should be the same size on the top and the bottom. That was the shape that we have done in the 40s. So you really have to kind of go on your own lips. Mine are pretty even. I just overdrew the top a little bit, as you can see, and then just filled them in. So yeah, that was the thing they were going for. There was a study that actually 80 to 90% of women wore lipstick, which I feel like is not as much as they did now. Deep red and bright red were definitely the colors, but it was just red. Everyone had this kind of Russian red color. They weren't really going with any other colors. This was really to show solidarity for the war efforts and really bring people together, and it was considered uplifting. So going in with the MAC Viva Glam 1, I thought this was the perfect color. They used to blot their lips with tissue and then reapply a second layer of lipstick to make sure it was matte. Although I did read an article that Rita Hayworth's makeup artist had to use a pink shade because based on how they did the colored films, that was the only shade that looked red on camera based on, the technology that they had back in the day. Then if you just need to take a little bit concealer to fix up the kind of overdrawing that you've done with your lips, you can do that with just some concealer like I'm doing right here. I'm just fixing up that lip line so it looks extra sharp. And that's the final look. What do you guys think? I'm going to go take my hair out and I'll get right back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave some comments down below about what decade I should do next, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!